Let's look at the web services used in CRM. Microsoft Dynamics CRM provides two important web services that are used to access CRM from an external application and invoke web methods to perform common business data operations such as create, delete, update, and find in CRM. Let's consider following scenario where we have an external .NET application which needs to talk to CRM. For example, we may want to insert a contact record in a CRM when a new customer is registered in our external application. So, for that, we have to use a web service. So, this is a kind of scenario in which we generally use a web service. Another would be we want to search records in CRM and display the search results in our external application. In such a scenarios, we can use the web services exposed by CRM to consume them in our application and perform create, delete, update, and find operations in CRM. Then there is what are the web services available. So there is a web service called iDiscovery Service web service. This web service returns a list of organizations that the specified user belongs to and the URL endpoint for each of the organization. So iDiscovery Service is a web service which returns a list of organizations that the specified user belongs to and the URL endpoint for each of the organization. Then there's another web service called iOrganization Service web service. This web service is a primary web service used for accessing data and metadata in CRM. The iOrganization service uses two important assemblies, Microsoft.xrm.sdk.dll and Microsoft.crm.sdk.proxy.dll. These assemblies can be found in the CRM SDK package inside the bin folder. Now let's look at the Microsoft.xrm.sdk.dll. This assembly defines the core XRM methods and types including proxy classes to make the connection to Microsoft Dynamics CRM simpler, authentication methods, and the service contacts. Next is Microsoft.crm.sdk.proxy.dll. This assembly defines the request and responses for non-core messages as well as enumerations required for working with the organization data. Following are the namespaces supported by these two assemblies. So let's look at the namespaces. Each of the assemblies support certain messages which will be used to work with the data stored in any entity. A complete list of messages supported by them can be found in the following links. Supported XRM messages will be found at this Microsoft links, whereas supported CRM messages will be found at this another link. Now let's again understand about iOrganization Service web service methods. The iOrganization service provides 8 methods that allows us to perform all the common operations on the system and custom entities as well as organization metadata. The first is iOrganization service.create, which create a record. The next is iOrganization service.update, which updates an existing record. Third is iOrganization service.retrieve, retrieves a record. Fourth is iOrganization service.resolve, retrieve multiple, which retrieves a collection of records. iOrganizationService.delete deletes a record. iOrganizationService.associate creates a link between records. iOrganizationService.disassociate deletes a link between records. iOrganizationService.execute used for common record processing as well as specialized processing such as case resolution, duplicate detection, etc. That's all about web service. Now look at the solutions. Solutions provide a framework for packaging, installing and uninstalling components to match our business functionalities. Solutions allows the customizer and developers to author, package and maintain units of software that extend CRM. Any customization, extensions or configuration performed in CRM are packaged, managed and distributed using solutions. The solutions can be exported as a zip file from the source organization, which can then be imported in a target organization. For understanding this, consider the following example. We as a developer or customizer have extended or customized CRM in the development environment. Now we want to package our changes and move it to the next environment. For this, we can create individual solution and publish them in a higher environment. We as a third-party CRM provider have created a CRM module which allows managing data in Microsoft Dynamics. CRM entities using external web service APIs. Now we want to sell this module to other clients. Using solutions, we can package this module and distribute them to other clients who will be able to install this solution and use the functionality provided by our module. So what are the types of solutions available? The first is default system solution. The system solution contains out-of-box solution component defined within Microsoft Dynamics CRM without any customization. Many of the components in the system solution are customizable and can be used in a managed solution or unmanaged customization. Throughout this, we did not create any solution and were customizing the default system solution. If we recall, we went to settings, customization, customize the system. This option directly customizes the default solution. So there are two types of solution we can consider. One will be a managed solution and the other will be a unmanaged solution. A managed solution is a solution that is completed and intended to distributed and installed. Managed solution can be installed on top of the system solution or other managed solutions. Important points: if we export a managed solution from one organization and import it to another, we can't edit the solution in the new organization. A managed solution does not directly reference the system solution. Uninstalling a managed solution uninstall all the customization associated with the solution. By default, a managed solution can't be customized in the target organization. However, using the concept of managed properties, we can define whether a solution component will be customizable, and if yes, then which specific part of the component will be customizable once the solution gets exported as managed solution. The another is an unmanaged solution is a solution that is still under development and not intended to be distributed. An unmanaged solution contains all the unmanaged customization of CRM components, including any added, modified, removed, or deleted components. By default, any new solution is an unmanaged solution. However, we can export an unmanaged solution as a managed or unmanaged solution. Important points are: if we export an unmanaged solution from an organization and import it to another, we can edit the solution in the new organization. Whereas you know that a managed solution we can't edit, but an unmanaged solution we will be able to edit. An unmanaged solution directly references to the system solution, whereas the managed solution does not directly reference the system solution. Hence, the unmanaged solution is directly referenced to the system solution. Hence, the changes made to one unmanaged solution will be applied to all the unmanaged solution that reference the same components, including the system solution. If we delete a solution component from unmanaged solution, the component gets permanently deleted from the system and will no longer will be available. Whereas uninstalling a managed solution uninstall all the customization associated with the solution. In case we just want to remove the component from specific unmanaged solution, use remove instead of delete. Uninstalling an unmanaged solution does not remove associated customization. It just deletes the solution from the system, but the changes we made will still be there. So that's all about solutions, managed and unmanaged solution. That's it about the dynamic CRM training. This was the last chapter of this training. I hope you learn a lot of things about Microsoft Dynamics and you will use these things in your actual work and implement the system as well. Thank you for joining. So let's understand each. So the first one, that is sales and marketing. The bank's call center office executives receives data of potential customers, often called as leads in CRM. These leads are captured in the CRM system via marketing campaigns, sales drives, referrals, etc. So the call center executive communicates with these leads either through phone, calls, emails, etc. If the customer is interested in the credit card offering, the lead record will be converted to an opportunity record, won lead. And then they switch to service, that is, once a customer becomes a part of the system, the company would assist him or her with payments, billing, refunds, etc. Whenever the customer has any queries or concerns, they will make a call to the call center and raise incidents. The executive will follow up to resolve the case with the aim to provide quality service to customer. This task falls under CRM service management. So this was the brief functional explanation about sales, marketing, and service. So let's see how we can use it in terms of using in Office 365 Dynamics application. So I'm back at this Office 365 Dynamics dashboard, and you can see by default we are in the sales area, and if we want to change the area like service, marketing, field service, project service, resource scheduling, then we can switch it by clicking on this small arrow. And once we click on this, we will be having its own, we can say, all the entities which fall under sales or service. So as right now I have clicked on service, so you can see the entities under service, that is my work, customer, service, collateral, goals, tools. Similarly in sales you will find the same kinda entities, and under marketing you will find my work, customers, marketing, collateral, tools. In field service you will be able to see many options like work and scheduling, sales, service delivery, then inventory purchase. Now let's go through each of the modules. So let's start with sales modules. So sales module of CRM is designed to drive the entire sales life cycle of a new customer. The sales module consists of some of the things like leads, opportunities, then accounts, competitors, contacts, products, as well as you will find quotes, orders, invoices, sales literature, marketing list, quick campaigns, goals, metrics, roll-up queries, calendar, alerts, reports, and these are the basic, we can say, areas and the submodules the cells actually contains. So let's start with each of it. The first one is accounts. So accounts represents a company with which the organization has relations. Once an opportunity wins, it gets converted to either an account or contacts. So if I will click on it, I'm getting an error, but let's see. You can see this is the account section, which can be used in terms of the what are your clients or company relations is having, and that you can mention it over here. You can see you have to mention the account name, mobile main phone number, address, city, primary contact, and email address. By clicking on this add, you will be able to create a new account. So this is basically the account page where you can create an account. We will check everything in detail, but for the time being, let's go back to our page. For that, I'm again clicking on this cells, and I clicked on the dashboard, and I'm back on my dashboard page. And what we have seen is account, and the next one is contact. Contacts represents a person or any individual with whom the organization has relations. Mostly these contacts are the customers of the organization. For example, all credit card customers of a bank. Once an opportunity wins, it gets converted to either an account or contacts. So this is the way you can add contacts in this submodule. So the next is leads. So leads represents person or organization that can be a potential customer to the company in future. This is the first step towards getting a potential customer in the system. So this way basically you can get the lead. Once I click on it, it will take me to the lead page. So you can see some of the leads over here mentioned, and you can create a new lead from new. We will check this in detail, but for the time being, let me go back to the dashboard again. And I'm back on dashboard, and I'm back to lead. So this will be the information about the company or individual who will be in future become potential customer for the company. So we can consider it as a lead. So next in the list is opportunities. So the opportunities submodule represents a potential sale to the customer. Once a lead shows interest in the offering, it gets converted to an opportunity. An opportunity will either be won or lost. So that's why you can choose this opportunity. You can specifically mention once a lead shows interest in your offering, so you can convert that as an opportunity. And the next is competitors. Manage all the market competitors of the organization in this competitors list. So you can keep adding those, whoever you is your competitor, you can add that. The next submodule under sales is quotes. So quotes, as its name suggests, quote is a formal offer for products or services proposed at specific prices sent to a prospective customer. For example, yearly pricing of a certain credit card plan sent to the customer. So this way basically you can have your quotes under collateral group. The next is orders. Quote that gets accepted by the customers turns into an order. Example, out of all the plans that the organization offer to a customer may go for 6 months subscription. So this way the orders occur. And then the next is invoice. Invoice is a billed order generates an invoice. So whenever you bill for that order, it will be considered as its invoice. Then there is product. Product is basically managing all the products offered by the organization to its customer. For example, you can specify the credit card plans or mobile recharge plans, or these things will be considered as products. Then there is a sales literature. Whatever documents related to sales will be whatever plans or any documents or any conditional documents, agreements will be considered as a sales literature. Then there is marketing list. So this marketing list is basically provides a way to group your contacts, accounts and leads and interact with them via sending promotional emails, event details, newsletters and other updates relevant to the target customer. You can define the criteria to create your marketing list. For example, contacts age between 25 to 35. So these are the contacts you can say. Then there is a quick campaigns. So campaigns are designed to measure the effectiveness and accomplish a specific result, such as introducing a new product or increasing the market share, and may include various communication channels such as emails, newspaper ads, YouTube ads, etc. So these are the campaigns, and quick campaigns you can consider as quick campaign is similar to campaign. However, it can be related to only one type of activity. So that was from the sub module quick campaign. The next is goal. Then there are goals which we can set in terms of if you want to set a goal for specific period which needs to be achieved. So you can add that in this goal section. Next is goal metrics. Whatever the goal has been achieved, it can be measured based on some metric. The metric type will be either amount or count. So you can see over here, you can add that as well. And then there is a roll-up queries. You can use to gather the data about a group related data using this roll-up queries, where you can specifically roll up some queries and create a new roll-up query record. Then there is a report under tools section. That report submodule is used to create a list of reports. And then there are alerts which can be used to create alerts, data and messages received from the system. And calendar, which will be a kind of scheduling appointments or service calls. You can use these modules as well. So these were the modules. This was an introduction about this sales module. We will go in deeply into each of these sub modules, and we will try to create customers, accounts, contacts, as well as leads, opportunities, competitors and quotes, orders, invoices, products. All these things we are going to create in our upcoming sessions, but just want to give you some idea. That's why I have showed these things. Hi all, I hope you all are fine. Let's start with our session on Microsoft Dynamics. In our last session, we saw the overview of Microsoft Dynamics. In that, we checked how we can create the Microsoft Dynamics account, and then we saw some of the modules such as sales, service, marketing, field service, project service, resource scheduling, settings, as well as training. So we took a look at sales in deeply by checking into what are the features within this sales module. Now let's see what is under service module. So to start with, under service, first thing you will notice a similar thing which is dashboard. To set up the dashboard with charts and graphs to more easily visualize your data. So if I will click on it, you will be able to see the dashboard over here. So this way basically you will be able to see the dashboard for service. Then the other feature is activities, which will show you all your tasks, calls, emails and appointments. Whatever activities assigned to you will be shown over here. Next is customer. Under customer, you will see accounts. So you will have all the list of customer accounts. Then contacts, list of your contacts. Social profile, list of your social profile. Then in service, which will have a group of service records, you will find the cases, service calendar, queues, knowledge article. Then under collateral, you will see articles, contracts, products, services. And then there will be goal as well for service, and the goal will be you are going to include your own goals and targets under these goals. Then there will be a goal matrix, roll-up queries, reports, alerts and calendar under tool. So these are the features under service module. Now let's see the next module, which is marketing. Under marketing, again you will notice the same structure, like you will see my work. Under that you will find the dashboard, activities. Then for customers you will see accounts and contacts. For marketing you will see leads, marketing list, campaigns and quick campaigns. Then for collateral you will see products, sales literature, tools. Under tools there will be reports, alerts and calendar. And next is field service, and in field service you will notice something called as work order and scheduling. In that you can specify your work orders, whatever work orders you are having, and then you can schedule a board as well as do a resource bookings. Then under sales you will find accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, quotes. And then there will be a service delivery. Under service delivery there are features or sub features we can say, like orders, agreements, invoices, customer assets, time of request, actuals. Under inventory and purchase you will find purchase orders, purchase order receipts, purchase order bills, inventory transfer, inventory adjustments and warehouse, as well as RMAs, RMA receipt and RTVs. And then there will be a settings for field service, which is with the link administration. Then under project service you will notice dashboard, booking and tasks, time entries, expenses, project approvals, delegations, then customers, contacts. Under sales you will see leads, opportunities, quotes. Under planning and delivery you will find projects, projects template, project contracts, project contract milestone. Billing you will see invoices, actuals, journals. Then resources you will find schedule board, resource utilization, resource requests, resource requirement, resource booking, resources. Then resource roles, resource skills, proficiency models. Under tools over here in project service you will find only one option, that is reports, whereas in settings you will find multiple options like organizational units, work hours template, booking statuses, requirement statuses, requirement priorities, scheduling parameters, transaction categories, expense categories, invoice frequencies, price list, batch jobs. Then under resource scheduling, you will see scheduling, and in that scheduling, you will find sub features such as resources, resources roles, resource skills, proficiency models, resource requirement, resource bookings. And under tool feature, you will see schedule board. And under setting feature, you will find out organizational units, work hours template, booking statuses, requirement statuses, priorities, administration. And then there is service settings. So under settings, you will find modules such as business, and then you can manage your business by using this business management settings for sales, territories, currencies, business rules to create records automatically and more. Then there will be template which you can use to create and manage templates, product catalog to create and manage catalog, and service management, create and manage service queues, routing rules, service level agreements, entitlements, and other service feature. In customization, you will find customization solution, then dynamic marketplace, a third-party solution you can get from here, and then plugin trace log. In system, you will see administration, security, data management, system job, document management, set up the SharePoint site for document sharing and storage, and then set up OneNote integration, auditing, go to settings for monitoring and tracking changes to system data. Then there will be email configuration, activity feeds configuration, activity feeds rule, dynamic 365 app for Outlook, relationship insights. Process center, you will find processes, Microsoft laws, application, and there you will find my apps. So once you know the settings, then there will be a last module, that is training, and under training you will notice resources, a help center, and learning path with content library. So this were the introduction of modules. Now let's learn something called as entity. So before going into how to create an entity, let's understand what is an entity. An entity is used to model and manage business data in CRM. Contacts, cases, accounts, leads, opportunities, activities, etc. are all entities which hold data records. Conceptually, a CRM entity is equivalent to a database table. For example, contacts entity would hold contacts records, cases entity would hold cases records, and so on. You can have both out-of-box entities which comes by default with the CRM, and custom entities which you can create with customization. For instance, suppose that you are maintaining the data of the entity of books. So you can create, or you must have customers to read these books. So for this, you will be storing the customer data using out-of-box contacts entities. But where would you store the books data? So for that, obviously you need entity to store the data for books. In such a scenarios, you need to create a new custom entity named books. So let's understand that how this books will be related to existing entity called contacts. So let's try to go deeply and understand how we can create this kind of entities. Like, let's suppose we are having example of employers and employees. So taking this an example, we can create and store the employees in a contact entities, and it also provides an account entity in which you can store all your employers. But for the sake of learning, let's understand how we can create an employer entity. So for that, to create employer entity, we have to go to settings. So to go to settings, I'm going to click on this small arrow, down arrow, and as we saw this entity, I mean the feature which we saw called settings, or we can say the module settings, and I clicked on settings, and here you will see an option called customization. So I'm going to click on it, and once I clicked on it, you will be able to see the customize system option. This is the default solution window, and we will learn more about this soon, but for the time being, let's understand how this customize the system option will work. So I'm gonna click on it. So once I clicked on it, it opened a new window. So you can see over here in this window, you can see that there are many default solution options on the left hand side, whereas on the right hand side you will be see the component types, all the components available over here, and you will notice an option called entities over here, and I will click on this arrow to expand it, and then you will notice many entities shown over here. So as I have clicked on entities, it is started showing me all the entities under this left hand navigation as well as on this right panel. So to create a new entity, as we are taking an example of employees and employer, for employer we need to create a new entity. So let's click on this new button, and once I click on new button, you can see a new window opens up with screen to add entity definition. So let's go ahead and add entity definition. So in this basically entity form, we are going to enter the display name for this entity as well as a plural name as employers. So let me just add display name as employer, whereas the plural name I'm gonna add as employers. Once I'm done with that, in the section areas that display this entity, in that I'm going to add some more information. So this is the section areas that display this entity, and I can select what kind of modules I would like to have within this entity. So I can select sales, service and marketing tab along with some settings. So I have added these tabs, and then I'm gonna click on the save button. But before that, you will notice there are other things which are mandatory, like name of this entity, which will be by default new because we are creating, and then this employer, and then there will be primary image if you would like to add any. If you want to change any color, you can specify that. So then you will also notice description. If you want to add any description regarding this employer entity, you can add it. And data source, if you want any data source which is currently disabled. This virtual reality option or virtual entity option, basically, if you want to put, you can check this. I'm gonna click it uncheck. You can notice once I check it, there will be two things like external name and then external collection name. For the time being, I'm just unchecking this virtual entity. And then ownership. Under ownership, you have to select either user or team or organization. So I'm gonna select as organization. And once I'm done with this, I can even define as an activity entity, but I don't want to, so I will keep it as uncheck. And then there will be a process. If I want to select any process, then I can select this. Then as far as communication and collaboration concerned, I will keep it as a mail merge only. And for data service, and the options like data service, Outlook and mobile, help, all these things I will keep it blank, or we can say as it is. And I will just click on save. So once I will click on save, it is going to create an entity for this create entity page. So the entity we have created is employer. So let's wait for some time because it's in a process. So once we are done with the save, you can notice here the name for employer, and I'm gonna click it as close, save and close. So I have clicked save and close, and now I'm going to just refresh this. And I will look for employer basically. So there is search option as well. So we can search this in this configure relevant search. But let me just scroll it down a bit. And here you can notice this is the entity we have created, employer. And the name for this is new underscore employer. Schema name is new underscore employer. State is unmanaged, and customizable is set to true. Other than this, there are other options such as audit status, which is disabled, and define the amount of type support, and all these things will be mentioned for other option. But in terms of description, we have set it blank. So right now it's blank. So that's it with the employer entity. Now to make this entity available throughout this dynamic, so I'm gonna click on this publish all customization. So once I will click on it, this will publish all the changes I did, and we have to wait for some time because it's in progress. So you will notice that this publish process is complete. Now I will click on save and close, and I'm done with the save and close. Now let's go back to our sales dashboard and check whether the entity which we have created, which is employer, is available or not. So for that, I'm gonna click on this settings, and from settings I will navigate to sales. And now I am in sales, and once you will go to the right hand corner, this is the arrow. When I clicked on it, this is something, it is showing tools. So I have clicked on the sales and this tools as well. You can move these features by scrolling your mouse. See the way I'm moving it. Instead of going into this corner, you can just scroll this mouse and you can able to view any of the features. So we were talking about employers extension, or we can say the entity which we have created. So if I will move at the end of this sales modules, so here you will see under extension there is this employers entity, and once I will click on it, you will be able to see a screen of active employers. And in this active employer screen, we are going to create or a new employer record. So let's go ahead and create a new employer record. So for that, I'm going to click on this new button. So once I clicked on it, it will load a page with where we have to mention the name of the employer. So let me just mention it as employer 1, and once I am done with that addition of this employer 1, I am going to click on save and close button, and you can see this is the record entered in this employer 1. To access the record like the one which we have created, we have to go to that entity page and then we have to click on that specific record. So this way, once I will click on it, I will be able to see the record and I can make the changes as well. So let me just go back, and to go back, what I'm gonna do is, first thing, I can click on this employer and you can see I'm back to this, and under this employers we can keep adding many employers, active employers we can say. So this way you can keep adding the information. In case you want to delete the record, you can select that record, you can click on this delete button. If you want to activate it, you can activate with this button, whereas if you want to deactivate, you can use this deactive button. So this way there are ways to manipulate this record. Now you must have noticed when we click on this new, we will be able to see only one field over here, and in this form editor, once we click on it, it is loading and you can see we can create a form out of it, but right now we are having only one field. So we need to understand how we can add more fields, like we were dealing with basically a contact form and we choose to create our own entity which is employers. So we have created this, but this is having only one field. So let's go ahead and add few more fields in this employer entity. Now to add a new field in this employers entity, I'm going back to the settings module, and in settings module, let me just open it in a new tab. So here you can see I'm back in settings module, and under settings module there is this customization, and I'm gonna click on this customization sub module, sub feature we can say, and again I'm going to click on customize the system and a new window will open, and here I will click on entities, and under entities I want to click on my entity which I have created, that was employer entity. So quickly let me go through this and let me find my entity. So here you can see this is my entity and it's opened over here, and in a primary field you will notice the field which is name, which we already saw in while adding a record. So this is the name field, and the data type for this name field is single line of text. We need to understand what kind of data types are available in specifically for creating the entity, which we can call it as a field type. So let's understand what are the out-of-box field types available. So basically Microsoft Dynamics CRM provides 11 types of data fields, which are single line of text, option set, two options, that is a radio button, and image, whole number, floating point number, decimal number, currency, multiple lines of text, date and time, lookup. So let's get into detail of each field type and understand the field types first. So the first field type, as I mentioned, single line of text. This field stores up to 4000 characters of text, and you can also specify the format as one of these: email, text area, URL, ticker symbol, and phone. You can set the maximum length and IME mode for each of these. The next is option set, which will be a drop down. So this field stores a set of options, each having a number value and a label. In other words, we can say it is a drop down field in CRM. You can also define global option sets which can be used across multiple forms. Next is two options, which is a radio button. So this fields provide two options for the user to select 0 or 1. In other words, it's a radio button field. Then there is a field type called image. So as its name suggests, when an entity has an image field, it can be configured to display the image for the record in that application. Whole number field type is the field stores integer values between a range, a specific range which starts for, basically it starts from -2 billion to 2 billion. So it supports these specifying formats as none or duration, time zone, and language. You can set the minimum and maximum values too. Next field type is floating point number. So as its name suggests, it will be having decimal points up to 5 decimal points of precision between 0.00 to 1 billion. You can set the minimum and maximum values too. Decimal number, this field stores up to 10 decimal points with ranging from 1 million, or we can say 100 billion to -100 billion to +100 billion. Then the currency, which is a field to store any currency value in this range. That range, it starts from 9 billion, or we can say 922 billion. And you can also specify the precision as a pricing decimal, currency precision, or any value between 0 to 4. Then there will be multiple lines of text. As its name suggests, you can add and set maximum number of characters in this field. Then date and time, which is a field to store date related data in CRM with two supported formats, date only, date and time. You can also specify the behavior as user local, date only, and time zone independent. Then the final field is lookup. You can create a lookup field using an entity relationship that has already been created but not yet used with another lookup field. If you create a lookup field in an entity form, the relationship is automatically generated. A lookup field is created as a relationship field. So this is about what kind of data types or field types we are having. So what we are going to do is we will create a new field as we have only one field in our employer entity. So we are here on the employer entity page, and we have just studied the 11 field types, or we can say data types available. So what we are going to do, as our employer entity have only one field, we would like to add a few more fields in it. So what I'm going to do is I will add 3 more fields. First will be employer type, which will be a kind of drop down. So we can use the option type, or we can say option set field. Then there will be, I will add one description. so that you will be able to enter a description for your company, or we can say for your employer. And then another last field I'm going to add, which will be a date and time field, where we can mention the when our company has started kind of information, the date for that. So to create a field, I'm going to click on this field which is under the employer entity, you will notice, and once I will click on it, it will load a page or a view, you can say, which shows all the fields which are currently available in employer entity, but the only visible field is this new name, which display name is name. So we want to create few more display name fields. This fields other than new name, or we can say name, are system fields. So these fields are currently not visible to us, but let's create 3 fields which will be visible to us on add record form. So I'm gonna click on this new. Once I will click on it, the first thing I need to mention over here is a display name for that field. So I will say employer type. So once I will enter employer type, you will notice a name will be automatically populated. You can either keep it as it is or you can make a change. Then you will, on the left hand side, you will notice there is a field requirement. Either you can keep it as optional, or you can keep it as business recommended or business required. So for the time being, I'm keep it as optional. And then you will find a searchable, whether it needs to be searchable or not. So I want this column or this field to be searchable. So I will click on yes. In field security, I will make it as disabled. And in auditing, I will keep it as enable, so that this field will be audited. And in description, I will leave it as blank, whereas appears in global filter in interactive experience, I will keep it unchecked, and sortable in interactive experience dashboard, I will again keep it as unchecked. Now the main point for which we are here is we need to select the data type for this field. So the data type we will see, I will select a data type as option set, and then field type you will notice either it needs to be a calculated or simple field type. So I will keep it as simple. So you will find out that there are multiple, or we can say total more than 12 or 13 options out there, but we will go with this option set because our display name is employer type. And once I'm done with this, I can either use the existing option set. So I will keep it as no, and then default value I will keep it as unassigned value. Once I'm done, I'm going to click on save and close. So I have created the employer type, and you will notice that new employer type is the name, and you will find out that it's option set, whereas field type was simple and state was unmanaged. So now let me create one more field. I will click on new again, and once I clicked on new, again a form is loaded. I'm going to quickly add description field. Or I will call it as employer description. So once I'm done with this employer description, name, if I want to change it, I can change that as well. So I will add it as employer over here, and the rest will remain as it is except the type, which is data type. So I want this employer description to be multi-line of text. So for that, I'm going to mention this multiple line of text as data type. And then I'm able to set, it will give me an option to set the maximum length. I will go for 5000. And then I can even mention the IME mode. Either it's auto, inactive, active and disabled. So I will keep it as auto and I will click on save and close. So let me just add the last field, which will be the date when my organization, or we can say whenever my company started. So for that I will org date. I will call it org start date, and other options I will keep it as it is, and I will directly go to this data type where I will select the data type as date and time because I want to be a date field. So I'm going to put a data type as date and time. The field type will remain simple. Behavior will be either date only, user local or time zone independent. So I will prefer it as date only, and then it will even give me the IME mode. I can select it as auto. There is this message or warning, we can say, when the behavior of a field is date only, field values are displayed with no time zone conversion. The date portion of the value is stored and retrieved as specified in the UI and SDK. The time portion of the value will always be 12 AM. The behavior of this field can't be changed once it's saved. So this is the warning if we go for this date only. So it's better if we will go for time zone independent, but once we will select the time zone independent, we will get another warning message which says that when the behavior of the field time zone independent, field's values are displayed with no time zone conversion. The date and time values are stored and retrieved and specified in UI and SDK. The behavior of this field can't be changed once it's saved. So the last is, or we can say the first one is user local, and the warning message for user local says that when the behavior of a field is user local, field values are displayed in the user's local time. So in the SDK, this will be written using common UTC time zone format. So I will go with user local, and if I want to select any specific format, I can select that. So I will go for date and time. So once I'm done, I'm gonna click on save and close. So I clicked on save and close, and you will notice the fields as new employer description, new employer ID, new employer type, and here is the new org start date along with new name. So we have all the fields now. Now the important thing which we have to do is publish all these fields. So I'm going to click on publish because without publishing it won't be available in our create or add item, or we can say add entry form for employer entity. So I'm going to click on it. So the publishing customization will take some time. So you can see that the publish customization process is over. Now I am going to close this page, as well as I will go back to my entity page, or we can say I will go back to add employee entity record page. So for that I will switch to this screen and I will click on sales. So you will see already this extension employer is showing over here. Let me just quickly go to this sales, and here this is the employer section and I clicked on it. So I'm going to click on close this tab which was already open, and here we have added this active employer which is employer 1. Now let's go and add one more employer. On clicking of the extension employer, it will take me to the employer entry page. So here we are on the employer entry page, and you will notice that once I will click on this new, still it will show me only one column, name. Let me just click on it. So you can see over here it is still showing me only one column. Whereas what we have done, we have created 3 more columns and we have published those columns as well. So where are these columns? So to have this column in this, we need to use this option called form editor. So once I will click on this form editor, you will notice that on the left hand side, it will start showing me all the fields which we have published, or we can say the data type fields. And now I'm going to drag and drop each of the fields. So first one is employer description I have added, and then I want to add employer type in this form, and finally org start date. So I'm just adding this org start date. So you can see I have added this org start date as well. Once I'm done with this, I just have to click on save first, and then I'm gonna click on publish. So again, this publish will take time, and once the publish is done, I'm going to close this window. I will go back to the extension employer page, and then I will going to click on new now. So now when I click on new, it needs to show me total 4 fields. So here I clicked on new, and you will notice that we have all the fields which we have mentioned in the form editor. So I'm going to mention the employer 2 as employer name, and then employer description is US based company, IT company I will add. Then employer type, which needs to be a drop down kind of stuff, but we haven't added any. That's why it's not showing anything. So we need to configure that as well. And then date, which you can see, we will be able to select the date, but the only problem is with employee type. So we have noticed that there is no value added in this employer type. So let me just save this first, and we will go back to our entity creation page, and there in the employer entity we are going to edit this field called employer type. So for that, let me just quickly save and close this. So you can see the record has been added over here, but it still don't have a employer field, or we can say the employer option field in which we can select the employer type. So for that, I'm gonna open a new tab. Let me just open it, the settings in a new tab, and here I have opened the settings in a new tab. And what I need to select, as you know, it's customization. And once I will select the customization, I just need to click on this customize the system. And after clicking on customize the settings, I will back to my entity page, which is employer entity. I will scroll down, and here you can see the employee entity. and in this employer entity, basically I want to edit a field. So for that I clicked on this fields, and I will go to the employer type field, and I'm going to edit this employer type field. So let me just select and click on this edit. So you will notice over here I have kept this default value as unassigned value. So I need to add some options in it. So the first item would be either it's private company, and I will call it as value would be again a private value. So the value needs to be in a number. So I will keep the default value, which is 10 billion. And then I will let's go for this a description if I want to add any, and I will keep the color as it is. Then I will again add a new item, and the item value or label would be public, and the value will be by default 10 million 1 as the next item. If you want, you can make change and make it simple as well, like 102. And then if you try to put a 102, it is not going to give you that. So by default it will keep adding the value. So these are the two records, or you can say options, I have added for my employer type field. Then I'm going to click on save and close, and I saved and closed this, and now I'm going to publish it. As usual, publishing will take some time, and once the record is published, or we can say once the field is published, we will be able to see a drop down in our form for adding a record for employer entity. So whenever this message will pops out, you just have to click on wait, and you can see that now I just clicked on sorted, so that's why it's got sorted. But you will notice the new employer type is optional set, and now we have made it as a drop down by adding options in it. So let me just quickly close this and go back to my page. So for that I'm going to close the first tab, and I will open the extension over here. Let me just go back to first cells, and then I will open this employer extension. So it's open. Now let's add a new employer or new record, and once we will add it, we must see the drop down working. So let's go ahead and click on new, and I'm here. Let me just add quickly employer 3, then a description, large company, and then employer type, which needs to show me, and you can see it is showing me public and private options. So I will select public company, and then I will select the date, which will be this one, and then I'm going to click on save and close. So that's it. This way basically we can save and close. So once you're done with adding active employers, you can either export it to Excel. You can see over here, you can either export it or import the data within it from Excel, and even you can create a chart pane. So these are also options available. We can also run the report on records, which are records we are going to select. On that record we are able to run the report. And if I will select all, you will notice there is something called as flows. So I can create a flow and then I will be able to run a workflow, the one which we have created with these two options. As well as you will see the run report available, and here you will be able to see what are other options like export chart pane, Excel templates, like quickly generating Excel documents or create a new template, then view which you can create, and as well as customize entity and system views. So here you can see a view which is active employers, inactive employers, and then create personal view, as well as you can save, filter to current view or save as a new view. So all these things are also available within this entity add record page. So this way you can create your own custom entity and add records in it. Now let's go back to the dashboard. Now let's understand the search functionality. So for search functionality, we will again go back to our entity which we have created under sales, which was employers entity. And here you will notice a search for records. So this is the search box. On every entity you will find this kind of search box available. So this search functionality is out of box, so it's a quick search which we can use. So by default, in every grid view of every entity in this CRM, a quick search functionality using a search box on top right will be available. So you can try entering a search string and it will return a matching records. So let's try that. I will enter employer 2 and then I will click on the search. So it will give me the search result. Even you can prefix the search with asterisk to perform wildcard search, as well as when using this kind of online version of CRM, quick search always searches all active records. So we have to keep that in mind. When, in whichever view you will be, you will always get all the active records. You cannot customize the quick search to modify the filter criteria, configure sorting, add view column, add find column, and change the properties. So this is something important thing which you need to keep in mind. As far as advanced search concerned, advanced search allows you to search records of any entity in CRM. It is one of the strongest and one of the most useful feature that comes out of the box with CRM. The advanced search icon appears on the top ribbon bar of Microsoft Dynamics CRM, irrespective of which screen you are on. So let's understand how to see the advanced search. So for that, we have to open the advanced find window. So you will notice this is the search bar, but this is the advanced find thing. So once I will click on it, it will give me or open a new window pop up, and here you will be allowed to select the entity. So I have currently selected the employers entity, and then you will be able to apply filtering and grouping criteria, and then you can save your views as per your requirement. So here you can see I have looked for employers and use saved view. I will go for new view, and then I am going to select whatever I'm looking for, like created on today. So this way I will be able to add more and more criteria to it, and once I'm done I can save it, and I will keep the name as new day. And once I'm done with this save, I'm going to close this. So basically I have added a new view with a advanced search. Now to see that advanced view again, I'm going to click on this advanced find button again, and here I'm going back on the same screen, but whenever you will click on this use saved views, you will notice on my view that is new day, and then you will be able to execute as well. Once you will execute, you will find the records for it. If you want to make any changes, you can do that as well by going over here. So these are basically the group parameters, whereas the one over here are query parameters. So we can keep adding query parameter and group parameters as per a requirement, and then you can even save the changes whatever you have done with the help of this save button. So I'm done with the saving, and then I'm going to close this form of advanced find. And now to see that advanced find view, or we can say the new day view, I just have to click on this, and you will notice this is the new day view, and I'm back over here and it is showing me all three records. If I will make any other changes, I'm able to filter as well as sort this new view with the help of advanced find. So in short, this is very helpful advanced search option so that you can show one specific view to one user, whereas for higher level users you can show a view which is fit to their requirement by creating a view with the help of advanced find option. So that's it basically with entity, then adding a search filter on it and creating a new view out of it. So that's it for today's session. Hi all, I hope you all are fine. Let's start with a new session on Microsoft Dynamics. As you know, Microsoft Dynamics CRM is a vast product which has evolved significantly over the years. The product comes with a lot of out-of-box functionalities which are inbuilt in the system. You do not need to write any code for utilizing this feature. So one of the important out-of-box feature in the Microsoft Dynamics CRM is searching capability. In that it supports advanced querying and filtering capabilities. So let's see how we can use the searching capability in Microsoft Dynamics. On the dashboard, once you open your Microsoft Dynamics dashboard, you will be able to see a search which is a start search in the ribbon. So this is the advanced search which allows you to search records of any entity in CRM. It is one of the strongest and one of the most useful feature that comes out of box with CRM. The advanced search icon appears on the top ribbon bar of the Microsoft Dynamics CRM irrespective of which screen you are on. So once you click on the icon, it will open this specific small find window. In this window, you will be allowed to select any entity for which you want to search records. You can apply filtering and grouping criteria and save your advanced find views as a personal view. So as I mentioned, this is a search in which we can search any entity within this CRM, and there's on the right hand side, this is the advanced find option which we can use to get any entity data along with applying some queries or filtering. So let's understand how it works. So as you saw that this is the advanced find icon. On click of it, a new window opens, and in this new window I am able to add some queries with the help of this out-of-box searching feature. So it will easily help us to write queries. So let's see how we can do that. So for this, let's take an example of getting a contact details of a person whose name is Robot. Okay, so let's scroll down and look for contacts. So these are basically all the entities which are currently available in our CRM. So you can see accounts and agreements, booking service, this booking rules, everything is available. So we will go with the entity called contacts. So I have selected contacts and I can use it as a new view, or I can add it to existing system view, but I will prefer creating a new view. So I have selected it new over here. Now my condition was I need to see the contacts information whose name is Robert. So Robert, for that I am going to select here a field whose first name start with Robert. So I'm scrolling down and here I got this full name and here it is a first name. So I will set the condition as first name equals Robert. So I have added that, and then I need to click on this results button to see the result. And once I clicked on it, it will give me the result which I am looking for. So here you will see that there are many options available. So currently we can save this view, the one which we have created. So let me just quickly save it. I will call it as test contact. And I have saved the view. Then if I want to clear something, I can even use this clear. And now you can see it's showing me my view as test contact over here. If again I want to create a new view, I have to just select. But before that, it will ask me click OK to discard change and click cancel to continue. So I'm just click OK just to make sure that the view which I have created is done. I'm done with it. And now I have again selected a new over here, so I can create a new view as per my requirement. But the thing which we need to look for is something. We have to decide the entity type, which kind of entity you would like to have or you would like to query for. Then this is the query which will show the existing query if there is any query associated with it. Then saved views will show the saved views. New, as you know that you can create a new query to find records and activities. Save to save this query. Save as, save a copy of this query with the new name. Edit column. You will be able to add or remove columns displayed by search. So you can edit the columns in the query results. You can also edit the properties. You can add a group query line together using AND or group query line together by using OR. Then details, you can hide the query lines from the view, and you can even download or fetch the XML to download your query in XML. So these are the advanced find features. On the list tools, you will be able to see the record type. You will be able to select the record type to limit the displayed saved views to those based on the record type. Then there is a set as a default view, which is currently disabled because we haven't selected any item that works with this feature. Then there are other records features available like show as active, deactivate, book, delete saved view. And then you can even collaborate with your team by sharing or following specific view. You can even run the workflows and start the dialog. Even you can run the report. You can quickly generate Excel document or create a new template. Similarly, you can generate Word document or create a new template, and then you can export saved views as well. So this is about the advanced search or advanced find. So I'm closing this window, and along with this advanced find, you will also find a small search box. We can call it as a quick search in all the entities. So currently you can see over here in the open leads, this is the search for records. So you can look for cat, and once you click on it, you will be able to see the records related to cat. So this way, the out-of-box feature of Microsoft Dynamics CRM offers quick search as well as advanced search and a capability to save the search result as a view, which you can view it later whenever you need it. Now let's understand about the web resources. Web resources in CRM are the virtual web files that are stored in CRM database and used to implement web page functionalities in CRM. These files can be of HTML, JavaScript, Silverlight, or any other supported types. So first let's see what are the ways to access the web resources, and then let's discuss more about web resources. So let me show you how we can access the web resources. So for that, I just have to click on this drop down, and I need to scroll at the end, and here is the settings which I'm going to click on, and on click of the setting you will see the features like business customization. So we have to click on customizations, and here in the customization we need to again select the feature. Which feature would you like to work with? So we will select here customize the system feature, and in this you can see a component called web resources. So as I mentioned, these web resources are used to implement the web page functionalities in CRM. So you can see there are many, or you can see over here it shows that 3,738 web resources available, which are actually supporting the web page functionality in this Microsoft Dynamics CRM. These files are either made with the script, or you can find some PNG files as well. You may find some HTML files, Silverlight files. So there are many types of files you may find in this web resources. CRM being a product comes with an extensive set of features and functionalities. However, most of the times, you would have to extend these existing functionalities to meet your custom requirements. Extending these functionalities generally happens in two ways. Extending on client side using web resources and form scripting. Extending on server side require plugins, workflows, and web services. So let's understand first what is the use of this web resources. So as I mentioned that extending CRM on the client side is where web resources comes into the picture. So to understand clearly, let's consider the following ways, or let's consider some ways which we can use to understand the use of web resources. Let's consider that you have a CRM form containing certain fields. CRM provides out-of-box feature for basic validation such as mandatory fields, field length, etc. However, what if you would like to have a more complex validation such as validating if the entered phone number is the correct format or validating if the entered address actually exists or if the entered SSN is correct. So on that time, you need to have a web resource. Also consider another example like CRM provides out-of-box UI. So that UI customization such as creating sections and tabs on a form or rearranging fields are actually in a limited way possible. However, if the client wants to build a custom page which shows all the functionality or all the information of a customer coming from their other ERP system, on that time you need to create a web resources. CRM comes with a standard ribbon bar which contains all the buttons and options. And in case if you want to add a ribbon button of your own, then again you need to use web resources. Another example could be, consider that you have an ERP system already placed. What if you would like to open some CRM screens from this ERP system? So on that time, again you need to write a web resource. You can always call any external web services in your server-side plugin code. However, what if you would like to call any external web services while you are still on client side? So whenever you are at client side, the only thing comes into the picture is web resources. So this way, every web resource can be accessed via its unique URL. You can either upload a web resource file or for code-based resources such as HTML, JavaScript, you can even edit them directly inside the CRM. So basically you will be able to make some changes in this web resources by staying within a CRM as well. Since web resources are stored within a CRM, then they can be easily migrated from one environment to another, together along with any CRM customization. So that's another advantage of using web resources. So understand that what kind of or what type of web resources available. We already discussed that it could be a JavaScript, a PNG format, other HTML format or any other GIF format. So let's see how many are there. So there are total actually 7 type of web resources. The first come as the web page that is HTML. So this is the HTML. Let me just open it in a new window. So here you can see a HTML web page, which is a web resource that are called alert dialog view. Let me just click on it and open it, and you may come to know what exactly it looks like. So as it's a HTML web resource, you can see the details of it, like whatever description and name, all this general information is already mentioned. Then the important thing comes, like what type of it is. So it's HTML. You can use this text editor to edit it over here. You may want to create any custom HTML page such as maps, custom application page, etc. Then once you are done, you can place it inside your CRM form. So this is the way basically you can view it. You can even publish it. Let me just open this text editor. So you can see over here whatever the code will be. You can see over here the code for that. If you want, you can edit the code. You can add your own code. You can make a completely new web resource as well. But this way, basically it can be done. If you want to upload a file instead of using a text editor, you can use this button, choose file, and you can see that as I mentioned, every web resource will have its own unique URL. So you can see that over here as well. So that's it about the HTML web resource. Now let's see the style sheet, that is CSS web resource. So now to quickly find a CSS web resource, instead of scrolling here down or up, I will use this filter. So once I will click on this filter, you will see the arrow coming over here, and on click of this, I will be able to see there are many types of web resources, but we are discussing the top 7 web resources, and we were looking for style sheet CSS. So I'm going to click on it. I will filter it basically. So here you can see all these CSS web resources. So let me just quickly open one. So any CSS web resource is basically helpful or to help the HTML web resource. So you can specify that, like the display name and the general information about a web resource. I can say CSS web resource, and how you can say it's a CSS web resource is based on its type. So that type you need to decide whenever you will be creating your own resource. So here a text editor. On click of that text editor, you can see the CSS code over here, and you can simply use that or make change into that as per your need. And again, a unique URL for this CSS web resource. Oh, that's it with the CSS web resource. Let's move on to the next type of web resource, and that is JavaScript. So again, I'm going to filter it quickly. So it's a script, that is JavaScript, and here there are many. You can see I will go with XML to JSON. As its name suggests, it is converting the XML data to JSON. So this is the general information and type along with unique URL. And I'm clicking on this text editor to see the code, and you can see over here a function x2js, which will be useful if you want to convert XML to JS. So this is the way you can write a code, and this is the way basically JavaScript web resource works. And next is data XML. So again I am selecting this, and you can see over here data XML. Data XML can be used to store any static settings or configuration data. So you can see that entity dictionary XML. This is the data XML. So it's in XML language and type is this. Any settings we can store over here. And you can see over here the XML language code. Basically a setting is mentioned over here. So once we have that, the next type of web resource is an image. Either it's JPG, PNG or GIF. So let me just quickly open one JPG image, and here I have opened it, and you can see this image, and on click of preview I will be able to see that specific image. So that's it about the image web resource. Basically there are three types of image web resource, as I mentioned, and the fourth type is again an icon, that is ICO. Then comes another type, that is Silverlight XAP. So Silverlight XAP will be used for any custom Silverlight application which is embedded within CRM. So currently there is no Silverlight XAP application embedded within the CRM, so that's why there is no web resource available. And then let's see the next, which is XSL. So XSL is a style sheet. Again, it's been not used or not created, so it's not showing over here. It is used basically to transform XML data. So XSL is to transform XML data. So it's about that. Now let's understand how we can create a web resource. So basically the popular web resource is JavaScript web resource, which are actually important type of web resource, as you know, because web resources deals with the client side. So we need to have applications of JavaScript in a CRM. So we will going to create a web resource of type JavaScript. Before proceeding further, let's understand the applications of JavaScript in CRM. So form event programming is one of the application of JavaScript in CRM. Form event programming is used to handle client-side behaviors such as what happens when a user opens a form or changes some data, moves through tabs. So to achieve this kind of event programming, such as client-side interaction, we have to write a JavaScript code, and we need to add it as a JScript web resource in CRM. However, JavaScript code which we are going to write has to be used dynamic CRM XRM.page model and not the standard JavaScript DOM. Using XRM.page model in Microsoft way of coding, it ensures that any code you write using the model XRM.page will be compatible with any future version of CRM. So let's see how the web resource would be. Like, in addition of being used in the form event programming, JavaScript is used in other application of CRM such as OpenForm, View, endpoints to interact with web services. Referencing JavaScript code inside other web resources such as HTML web resource, we can reference it. Also, JavaScript web resource application could be ribbon customization. So finally, one of the other common use is a ribbon customization, such as display or hide ribbon buttons based on the some logic, or we can enable or disable any of the existing ribbon buttons based on some logic. Or we can also handle what happens when we click on specific ribbon buttons based on some logic. So we need to understand that whenever we will create a JavaScript web resource, it is going to use a XRM.page object model. So that XRM page object model is very important in terms of creating the JavaScript web resource. So let's click on this new to create a JavaScript web resource. It will open a window and I will write it as test.js web resource. And here again I will copy paste the same name and type, which is more important, I will select JS script. And in a language also I will select English. If I want to write any code, I can write it over here. Otherwise, I can simply choose a file over here. So what I will write is a simple JavaScript which is type or script. I will write it as text only. Here I will call a simple alert message. Hi. I'm going to close this script tag. So once you are done with this, you have to simply click on OK. And then you can save this. You can see that I got a unique URL over here. And then I'm going to save it. And it's been saved. So once it's saved, I'm going to click on publish. And you can see it's publishing my customization. It's been published now. Now you can see over here in the web resource, the web resource which we have created is showing over here, that is test.js web resource. And we have also published it. So we can use it on any of our form. So this way basically you can create a web resource and then you can use it on any of your form. So let me just close it first. Now to add the web resource we have created, let's go to the form which we have created for one of the extensions, that is employers. So I'm clicking on it over here and you can see this is the data we have added in our previous session. Now I need to add the web resource on this specific employer form. What I'm going to do is first I have to go to the form. So if I will click on it, you can see this is the information over here, but it's of no required. Actually, I need to edit a form basically. So instead of going here, I have to edit the form. So I will click on this three dot and you can see the form editor. And here in the form editor section, you have to go to something called as form properties, which says that add scripts to the form events. Also, you can enable or disable the form assistant and navigation items. So I will click on this and here's the add button. On click of this add button, I can add any of the libraries. So that libraries will be a kind of web resource. You can see over here, look for web resource and web resource lookup. And here I will type test. I will do a quick search. So it's not showing over here. So I need to make sure that I have added that web resource over here. So here you can see the web resource, that is test.js web resource. I'm going to select that and I will click on add, so that this web resource will be added to our form. So I have added the web resource in this form. This way you can add any of your web resource to extend the functionality of a form. So basically we have created a JS web resource, but if you want to add any existing web resource, that too you can add by clicking on this properties again, click on this add again, and here if you want to see specific type of web resource, then that too you can choose from here. So currently it's showing all these JavaScript web resource, but you can create your own HTML web resource too, and you can add that as well. Also, this form sections gives you an option to create a web resource simply by clicking on this new button. So here you can create any web resource of any type, and then you can publish it, and that will be available over here, and then you can add it within the form. So this is the way basically you have to go with web resource to extend your form functionality. So that's it for today's session. I hope you understood a lot of important features of Dynamic 365 CRM. Thank you for joining. The next workflow step is wait step. Wait condition waits until a specific condition is met, not applicable for real-time workflows. So wait step is something we are going to use in an example, like I mentioned that if department equal to HR, then send an email, else we will say wait till department value equal to account, then send another email. So this way we can use wait condition over here. Next is parallel wait. Parallel wait branch specifies an alternative wait condition with a set of additional steps that can be performed once the initial criteria is met. So parallel wait branch is another wait step which we can use as an alternative wait condition, and in this we are going to set additional steps that can be performed once the initial criteria is met. So that can be performed when an initial criteria is met. So in this we can say that, for an example, as I keep saying, that if department equal to HR, send an email, wait till department equal to account, and another wait I will add, wait till status is equal to active. So this kind of parallel wait branch we can specify in this wait steps. The next workflow step is action steps. In action steps, we can create a record, which means we can create a record of the specified entity with the specified default values. So for example, we can create an employee record within an employee entity using create item in, or we can say create record in employee entity action. Then there is another action steps called update record, which updates the selected record with the specified or dynamic values. So for example, as we are creating create record in employee entity, similarly we can update record in employee entity by specifying the employee ID equal to 1. So this way we can specify the employee ID and we can set the employee salary as 10,000. So we can keep updating the record with the help of this update record action step. Then there is assign record, which assign the selected record to a user or a team. So basically, if a task needs to be done, we can assign that task to specific department or specific user with the help of assign record. So for example, if there is any approval task, so I will assign that task by specifying the assign the specific record by setting the approval task to the user, whoever will be available as a manager. Next is send email, which sends an email. So as I mentioned, if department equal to HR, we are going to send an email. So this way we can keep sending an email with the help of send email action. Then there is a perform action step which specifies the custom workflow step and actions. These custom steps have to be developed by a CRM developer. So this perform action steps are some custom workflow steps, and whoever will be a CRM developer is going to develop that. So what kind of steps are, like if you want some custom actions which are not available within this out-of-box action status, then you can specify that, like retrieving some value from a list which is not your current entity. So on that time you have to specify some custom workflow steps. So you can use perform action step for that. Then there is a change status which changes the status of the selected record. So let's consider there is a step where you have to change the status based on the value available. So you can specify that, or you can clearly change that, like you can change the workflow status, whether it's completed or it's in progress based on your condition. And finally stop workflow, you can stop the current workflow. These are the workflow process comes under your CRM. So you have to use these workflow processes as per your need. Whenever you need a certain application to be configured for specific requirement, so on that time you have to develop a workflow, or we can say create a workflow and trigger it based on the messages, or we can say based on the events. And you have to decide the scope, you have to mention the steps within the workflow as well. So under your CRM Dynamics, you will find processes under the settings. So basically whenever you will go to your Microsoft Dynamics CRM settings, you will find an option called processes, which will be used to create workflow processes. And there you have to specify the process name, you have to select the category as a workflow and specify for which entity you have to create a workflow. So once you decide that, you have to specify the scope of the workflow, and you have to specify when it needs to be started, or we can say you have to specify the event for the workflow, and finally you have to add a step within a workflow. So this is a simple thing which you can do once you take a look at the processes section under your Microsoft Dynamics CRM setting. So there is a question arise when to use a workflow. Workflow mostly used for asynchronous purpose. Like if you want to send an email, you must go for a workflow. If you want to send an email every week or on daily basis, you have to go for a workflow. Also, workflows are prepared when you want to achieve a simple functionalities, right? Like assigning users or creating a record, deleting the records. On that time you can use workflows. Workflows are easily configured by business users, so it's easy to use. That's another advantage of workflow, and we can run the workflows on demand. as per our needs. So this is something we have to consider for using a workflow. A real-time workflows have a request frequency which is higher than anything else. So it's better to use real-time workflows in some situation, whereas in terms of asynchronous need, like when you want it to be run in a background, you have to go for workflow option. An alternative to workflows is plugins. A plugin is a custom business logic that integrates with Microsoft Dynamics CRM to modify or extend the standard behavior of the platform. Plugins act as event handlers and are registered to execute a particular event in CRM. Plugins are written in either C# or VB and can run either in synchronous or asynchronous mode. So these plugins are very useful as it used to create a custom business logic, and similar to workflows, you can write the plugins in C# or VB. So let's consider some of the scenarios where we would like to write a plugin. So we want to execute some business logic such as updating certain fields of a record or updating related records, etc. On that time, we can create or update a CRM record with the help of plugin. If we want to call an external web service on certain events such as saving or updating record, then we have to go for plugin. For example, suppose we have to update our records in employee entity, then we have to use plugins, which will help us to update only certain fields which are we were desired for. In other case, if we have to use one web service which is available over a network, we can call that web service, let's say a payment service, which is external service, and we have to use that within our CRM. On that time, we have to use plugins. Like we have to do some credit card or debit card transaction. So we have to use a third party external web service. So that can be used with the help of plugins. If we want to dynamically calculate a field value when any record is opened, on that time also we have to use plugin. For example, I need to decide the tax rate based on the amount entered, so I need a plugin for that. We want to automate processes such as sending email to our customer on a certain events in CRM. So for that, we can use plugins and simply automate the email sending process. So these are some of the scenarios where we would write a plugin or we can use a plugin. The next point is event framework. The event processing framework in CRM processes the synchronous and asynchronous plugin request by passing it to the event execution pipeline. So this event processing framework is going to help us in terms of synchronous and asynchronous request with the help of event execution pipeline. Whenever an event triggers plugin logic, a message is sent to the CRM organization web service where it can be read or modified by other plugins or any other operations of the platform. So basically this event framework is going to help us whenever any specific event triggers a plugin logic. So on that time, a message will be sent to the CRM organization web service, where the message will be read or modified by other plugins or any core operations of the platform. So this is very important in terms of plugins. So the plugin pipeline stages, which are going to help us in terms of event framework, let's understand about that. The entire plugin pipeline is divided in multiple stages on which we can register our custom business logic. The pipeline stage specified indicates at which stage of the plugin execution cycle or plugin code runs. Out of all the specified pipeline stages in the following table, or let's say following this section, we can register our custom plugins only on pre and post events. We can't register a plugins on platform core main operations. So basically there are plugin pipeline stages. So there are 4 pipeline stages: pre-event, pre-operation. First was pre-event, pre-validation stage. Next was pre-event, pre-operation stage. Third is platform core operation. And the last is post-event, post-operation. So here we can, whenever we create our own custom plugins, we can register those plugins only at pre-event, pre-validation or pre-event, pre-operation stage. So these are the plugins stages, pipeline stages we have to consider. So let's start with the first one, that is pre-event, pre-validation stage. In the pipeline for plugins that are to execute before the main system operation. So in this pre-validation stage of pre-event, in this the plugins that are to execute before the main system operation, plugins registered in the stage may execute outside the database transaction. Then there is another pre-event, pre-operation stage in the pipeline for plugins that are executed before the main system operations, and these plugins are registered in this stage are executed within the database transaction. So the first one, which was pre-event, pre-validation, executes outside the database transaction, whereas pre-event, pre-operation executes within the database transaction. So this is something we need to keep in mind while going for plugins. The third stage, or we can say the third plugin pipeline stage, is platform core operation. The main operation in transaction, the main operation of the system, such as create, update, delete, and so on. No custom plugins can be registered in this stage for internal use only. So as I have already mentioned that platform core operation, main operation, is for the out-of-box plugins only. We can't register our custom plugin within this stage. And the last is post-event, post-operation stage in the pipeline for plugins which are to execute after the main operation. Plugins registered in this stage are executed within the database transaction. So in post-event, post-operation stage, we will be able to register our custom plugins, but that will be executed after the main operation, and the stages will be executed within the database transaction. Now let's understand what are the event takes place, or what are the sequence of actions takes place whenever an event is invoked. So whenever a CRM application invokes an event like saving or updating a record, the following sequence of actions takes place. The first one is the event triggers a web service call and the execution is passed through a event pipeline stages, that is pre-event, platform core operation and post-event. So basically whenever an event triggers a web service call and the execution is passed through an event pipeline. The next is the information is internally packaged as an organization request message and finally sent to internal CRM web service methods and platform core operation. So the information is internally packaged as an organization request message and sent to internal CRM web service method and platform core operations. Next is the organization request message is first received by pre-event plugins which can modify the information before passing it to platform core operations. After the platform core operations, the message is packaged as organization response and passed to the post-operation plugins. The post-operation plugins can optionally modify this information before passing it to a sync plugin. The plugins receive this information in the form of context object that is passed to the execute method, after which the further processing happens. After all the plugin processing completes, the execution is passed back to the application which triggered the event. That was about the kind of actions takes place whenever event is invoked. Now let's understand what are the plugin messages. Messages are the events on which the plugin or business logic is registered. For example, we can register a plugin and create a message of contact entity. This would fire the business logic whenever a new contact record is created. So the messages are simply the events on which the plugins is registered. Now let's see for custom entities which are the supported messages based on whether the entity is user owned or organization owned. So what are the messages available or what are the events available for user owned as well as for organization owned entities? So assign is the message available for user owned entities, which means you can assign specific tasks to a user. Then there is a create is message is available for user owned and organization owned entities. For example, you can create a record within a employee entity as well as you can create a record within a organization department as well. Similarly, you can use a delete message for user owned and organization owned entity. Grant access message is available for user owned entity, which means you can grant some access to some of the user to modify or contribute, or you can even assign a grant as a grant access to user as only read-only access. Similarly, you can modify the access. So modify access message is also a user-owned entity only. Then there is a retrieve, which is a user-owned and organization-owned entities. So you can retrieve a data which are related to specific user, or you can retrieve all the data which are related to organization. Then retrieve multiple. You can retrieve multiple user data and multiple organization data using retrieve multiple. So retrieve multiple messages user owned and organization owned entity. Then there is a retrieve principal access, which is user owned entity only. Then retrieve shared principal and access, again a user owned entity. Then revoke a access. You can revoke someone's access, so it's become a user-owned entity only. Then there is a set state. Here you can user-owned and organization-owned entity. Then there is a set state dynamic entity. You can use user-owned and organization-owned entity. And finally, there is update, a user-owned and organization-owned entity. So update is again, you can update something, either it's user-owned entity or organization-owned entity. For default out-of-box entities, there are more than 100 supported messages. Some of these messages are applicable for all the entities, while some of them are specific to certain entities. We can find the complete list of supported messages in Excel file inside SDK, that is Software Development Tool or Software Development Kit. And in that SDK, if you go to message entity support for plugins.xls file, you will get the complete list of supported messages. Now let's look at how we can handle the exception in a plugin. More often than not, a plugin logic will need to handle runtime exceptions. For synchronous plugins, we can return an invalid plugin execution exception, which will show an error dialog box to the user. The error dialog will contain the custom error message that we pass to the message object of the exception object. So this error dialog box will be used for exception handling, so that with the help of this error dialog, we can show the custom error message which we can pass to the message object of the exception object. So via that, we will be able to do the exception handling. So this was all about how the plugins is and how the plugins work. But if you want to write a plugin, what you need is basically a CRM SDK, which contains all the required CRM assemblies. And with the help of Visual Studio, you will be able to create a project for plugin. So once you are done with the plugin assembly writing, then as it's your first time, you have to register your plugin assembly. This process is called signing the plugin assembly. So this process is important if you are creating your first plugin. And as we have discussed earlier, that we can use workflow in terms of asynchronous events, whereas we can use plugins in terms of synchronous events. So it's always recommended to go for plugin whenever you need to work with synchronous messages, scopes, and synchronous events, we can say. So that's all about plugins. Let's look at the web services used in CRM. Microsoft Dynamics CRM provides two important web services that are used to access CRM from an external application and invoke web methods to perform common business data operations such as create, delete, update, and find in CRM. Let's consider the following scenario where we have an external .NET application which needs to talk to CRM. For example, we may want to insert a contact record in a CRM when a new customer is registered in our external application. So for that, we have to use a web service. So this is a kind of scenario in which we generally use a web service. Another would be we want to search records in CRM and display the search results in our external application. In such a scenarios, we can use the web services exposed by CRM to consume them in our application and perform create, delete, update and find operations in CRM. Then there is what are the web services available. So there is a web service called iDiscovery Service web service. This web service returns a list of organizations that the specified user belongs to and the URL endpoint for each of the organization. So iDiscovery Service is a web service which returns a list of organizations that the specified user belongs to and the URL endpoint for each of the organization. Then there's another web service called iOrganization Service web service. This web service is a primary web service used for accessing data and metadata in CRM. The iOrganization service uses two important assemblies, Microsoft.xrm.sdk.dll and Microsoft.crm.sdk.proxy.dll. These assemblies can be found in the CRM SDK package inside the bin folder. Now let's look at the Microsoft.xrm.sdk.dll. This assembly defines the core XRM methods and types including proxy classes to make the connection to Microsoft Dynamics CRM simpler, authentication methods and the service contacts. Next is Microsoft.crm.sdk.proxy.dll. This assembly defines the request and responses for non-core messages as well as enumerations required for working with the organization data. Following are the namespaces supported by these two assemblies. So let's look at the namespaces. Each of the assemblies support certain messages which will be used to work with the data stored in any entity. A complete list of messages supported by them can be found in the following links. Supported XRM messages will be found at this Microsoft links, whereas supported CRM messages will be found at this another link. Now let's again understand about iOrganization Service web service methods. The iOrganization Service provides 8 methods that allows us to perform all the common operations on the system and custom entities as well as organization metadata. The first is iOrganization Service.create, which create a record. The next is iOrganization Service.update, which updates an existing record. Third is iOrganization Service.retrieve, retrieves a record. Fourth is iOrganization Service.retrieve multiple, which retrieves a collection of records. iOrganization Service.delete, deletes a record. iOrganization Service.associate, creates a link between records. iOrganization Service.disassociate, deletes a link between records. iOrganization Service.execute, used for common record processing as well as specialized processing such as case resolution, duplicate detection, etc. That's all about web service. Now look at the solutions. Solutions provide a framework for packaging, installing and uninstalling components to match our business functionalities. Solutions allows the customizer and developers to author, package and maintain units of software that extend CRM. Any customization, extensions or configuration performed in CRM are packaged, managed, and distributed using solutions. The solutions can be exported as a zip file from the source organization, which can then be imported in a target organization. For understanding this, consider the following example. We as a developer or customizer have extended or customized CRM in the development environment. Now we want to package our changes and move it to the next environment. For this, we can create individual solution and publish them in a higher environment. We as a third-party CRM provider have created a CRM module which allows managing data in Microsoft Dynamics CRM entities using external web service APIs. Now we want to sell this module to other clients. Using solutions, we can package this module and distribute them to other clients who will be able to install this solution and use the functionality provided by our module. So what are the types of solutions available? The first is default system solution. The system solution contains out-of-box solution component defined within Microsoft Dynamics CRM without any customization. Many of the components in the system solution are customizable and can be used in a managed solution or unmanaged customization. Throughout this, we did not create any solution and were customizing the default system solution. If we recall, we went to settings, customization, customize the system. This option directly customizes the default solution. So there are two types of solution we can consider. One will be a managed solution and the other will be a unmanaged solution. A managed solution is a solution that is completed and intended to distributed and installed. Managed solution can be installed on top of the system solution or other managed solutions. Important points: if we export a managed solution from one organization and import it to another, we can't edit the solution in the new organization. A managed solution does not directly reference the system solution. Uninstalling a managed solution uninstall all the customization associated with the solution. By default, a managed solution can't be customized in the target organization. However, using the concept of managed properties, we can define whether a solution component will be customizable, and if yes, then which specific part of the component will be customizable once the solution gets exported as managed solution. Another is an unmanaged solution is a solution that is still under development and not intended to be distributed. An unmanaged solution contains all the unmanaged customization of CRM components, including any added, modified, removed, or deleted components. By default, any new solution is an unmanaged solution. However, we can export an unmanaged solution as a managed or unmanaged solution. Important points are: if we export an unmanaged solution from an organization and import it to another, we can edit the solution in the new organization. Whereas you know that a managed solution we can't edit, but an unmanaged solution we will be able to edit. An unmanaged solution directly references to the system solution, whereas the managed solution does not directly reference the system solution. Hence, the unmanaged solution is directly referenced to the system solution. Hence, the changes made to one unmanaged solution will be applied to all the unmanaged solution that reference the same components, including the system solution. If we delete a solution component from unmanaged solution, the component gets permanently deleted from the system and will no longer be available. Whereas uninstalling a managed solution, uninstall all the customization associated with the solution. In case we just want to remove the component from specific unmanaged solution, use remove instead of delete. Uninstalling an unmanaged solution does not remove associated customization. It just deletes the solution from the system, but the changes we made will still be there. So that's all about solutions, manage and unmanaged solution. That's it about the dynamic CRM training. This was the last chapter of this training. I hope you learn a lot of things about Microsoft Dynamics and you will use these things in your actual work and implement this system as well. Thank you for joining.